afternoon and good evening to you, wherever in the world you are, as I always say. Welcome to TFH, the Full 100. Today is Wednesday, the 29th of April, and we're nearing the end of April, bang in the middle of week 4 of the UK lockdown. Guys, our topic today is something that I need to start warning you guys about, warning everybody about, to look out for. Yesterday, it was yesterday's video, I advised you guys that the separation has started. The putting us in groups has started. At the beginning of this all, it was all one. We're all in this together. However, those who look to separate us have started to separate us into groups. We got the resistors and the acceptors already in the UK. Over in the US, surprise, surprise, Trump in power. There's been the red and blue states situation. They've just exasperated it. And so that's what we're talking about today. The title of today's show, guys, is When Brexit Met the Pandemic. When Brexit met the pandemic. Why am I talking about Brexit? I'm talking about Brexit today in terms of the pandemic because on yesterday morning's show, they have already started talking about the Tory government. Michael Gove, the cocaine user, has already started talking about, we're not going to make any difference. We're not going to make any changes. We're going to head right out of Europe at the end of this year, as we proposed, and all of that talk. So guys, without further ado, let's get to it. Right. As I said, guys, it is diabolical that we are already talking, that we're even talking Brexit right now. It's shocking we're even talking Brexit. We're even remembering Brexit when our fellow Brits are still dying. What kind of ideology state are we in? It's ridiculous that we even talking the B word right now. I mean, everybody knows that we're heading out in January, in December. What is wrong with getting to December, getting to September, seeing where it is, seeing where we are with this virus, then coming and making an announcement, coming and telling people maybe Brexit won't happen, or come and tell people Brexit will happen, we can see where we are, we're all good, we're on track, we'll move on. Why are we talking about it now in April? Why? When our death toll, guys, our death toll has just been estimated at 45,000. Now, those of you who saw my show yesterday and last week, I've been putting, since I found out, and I was the first one that brought it to you guys properly, although the BBC said it, BBC said it like it was someone having lunch, they didn't delve into it, but as soon as Wuhan, the Chinese government announced that Wuhan had reissued their death toll numbers, and it was 50% more. The BBC was right on it. How come they did this? Why do you think they're doing that? Do you think they're hiding anything else, putting microphone to anybody they can find? But when our government tells them that they are not adding the deaths in the community, so if you died in your house, if you died in your room, you're not added to that list. If you died in a nursing home, you're not added to the list they've been putting out to the world that this is the UK's death list, this is the UK's death number. The BBC didn't put a microphone to any of the ministers. I did, not to the ministers, but I came here shouting and screaming about it. And then the CNN picked it up a couple of days after. And it was CNN, because obviously I have no power to request these things, but it was CNN that made us know that it was 52%. It was as high as 52% less the numbers that they were giving us. So ever since then, when I've given the UK number, I've given you 50% extra, not 52%. However, they've admitted now on Channel 4, which is the most trusting news channel as far as I'm concerned, and I'll tell you guys the same, okay? Take every news channel at face value, take the information, process it, cross-reference it against your knowledge, cross-reference it against common sense, cross-reference it against information that you get out there, and you will come as close to the true answer as possible. Okay? So I've been putting 50% on the numbers. So as of yesterday, I told you guys the death toll in the UK was 20-odd thousand, about 20,000. And I put 10,000 and then I gave you guys 30,000. When they were saying 15,000, I was telling you guys we was at 20, 22, 23,000. Well, the estimation is now double. I was giving them 50% on top, add another 50 to that. That's the real numbers. So while we have these numbers dying, Mr. Gove, what the hell does Brexit mean to anybody who's on the deathbed right now? What difference do you think Brexit makes to someone who's locked in their house right now, someone who's lost their job? And what's even more annoying of the whole thing is, what we're seeing right now, economically, with our numbers going down, with people out of work, although we did it on purpose, shut down the country, we're actually close to what a lot of people predicted would happen over time. Not over the 4 weeks, what's happening in 4 weeks, but over 1 year, over a year and a half, the effects of leaving the EU, from what my little self, what I calculated was something similar to what we're going through now, with people unemployed, with chaos, with trying to get this and can't get, we've tried to get PPE. If we were still in the EU, we would have got them. They won't tell you that. So while we're going through all this turmoil, Mr. Gove and Mr. Boris Johnson, why are we even talking Brexit? Guys, the situation with Brexit is that what Gove has said is, we're going to carry on. If the EU are not ready for us, that's their business. We're going to carry on and we're going to come out. Guess what? The EU does not have WTO rules. If we come out on WTO rules, guys, let me give you an example of what that means. Many people, and they're not explained these things. They're not broken down to people. So they go, yeah, it's all right. We'll go on WTO rules. Yeah. Let me explain to you. Let me give you a brief example what WTO rules means. WTO rules is the equivalent of someone who lives, or someone who grew up in this country, born in this country, has used underground for a long time, has got an Oyster card and pays Oyster fare on when they travel on the underground. Okay, that's a trade deal. If you have an Oyster, that's a trade deal. Those of you who know the difference between an Oyster and buying a 1 day and paying for your trips as you travel, you know there's a huge difference in those, right? If you know, you know. If you don't know, there is a massive difference between having an Oyster card, or those of you in the countryside who don't use London Underground, it's like having a 1 year travel pass, okay, compared to someone who pays per trip. So whereas a 1 year travel card might come up to maybe £4,000 or let's just throw a number up in there. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm trying to give an example here. Let's say a 1 year travel card will cost you £4,000 a year to buy. If you live in Birmingham and you travel to London, whatever, it costs £4,000. If you did the same trip by paying per train, that same trip over a year will cost you in the region of 12, 13, 14, maybe more £1,000. So when you have a WTA trade rules, you're like the person who's paying per trip. Everything costs you more, which then reflects on the people who are exporting. So if you're a wine guy, a wine merchant in the UK exporting to Europe all these years, you've had a travel card. So your trade and your travel's just been clock, get out, clock, deliver, go. If you're now, what they're saying is, we're going to rip up your travel card. We don't care about negotiating. We're just going to rip up the travel card, and we're going to now start paying fare by the trips. Who wants to do that to themselves unless it's not ideology? Who really wants to do that to themselves if it ain't for ideology? Guys, the US death toll is now over a million, 1,023,000. The US, sorry, not death toll, but active cases infected so far in the country. Well over a million now, 1,023,000. The actual death toll is now 58,000. And yet, ideology is still running the US. You've got people in the US talking about, let's not bail out the blue states. Because all the red states did not lock down. No one visits. The red states are the states that no one hardly visits. Arkansas. Very rarely you're going to get a Brit when you're at the airport. How often do you hear a Brit say, or a Dutch passenger, or a Spanish passenger, or a German passenger say, oh, I'm going Arkansas? You don't hear it very often. Or I'm going Utah, or I'm going Kansas, or I'm going Mississippi. You don't hear these places visited much more very often. So the blue states are the visited states. They're the friendliest states. They're the more welcoming states. They're the more open states. And so they're the more built up states. New York, California, Chicago, Pennsylvania, right? New Hampshire only the other day when Trump, just by a little bit, but only because Hillary, the fake news battered Hillary so badly. Do you know what I mean? But all these states, Washington, the Washington, D.C., yeah, the District of Columbia, which is different to Washington State, right? All these friendly states where that most of these flights from London head out. Florida's a red state and probably one of the only few red states that people visit like that. Texas, yeah, Texas is a red state, but how many people visit gun mad Texas with guns on their hips and stuff like that? So the red states who didn't lock down, those who did lock down just a little bit because of pressure from their press within the states, are already opening back up so quickly. So I'm going to show you a series of videos today, guys, right? The first I'm going to start with is the levels of testing, because the levels of testing are key to opening up. The levels of testing are key to us even starting to think about Brexit. What I mean by that, if you're testing your people at the beginning of March, so the beginning of last month, and you're getting 23% of every 100,000 people you test are infected, then by the end of March, you're down to 12% of every 100,000 people tested and positive. Then at the middle of April, this month now, you can see sort of 8 and 7% of everybody tested. We're now at the end of April. You're now seeing 3, 4, 5% of everybody tested. You know you're in a great place. You know that whatever measures you're doing, you can see the results by the testing result, by the test results, yeah? That everything that you can tell the progression of stuff through your test results. If you haven't got those test results, then you have no benchmark to work off. Let me show you guys what testing looks like and where we are on the chart, how much we've actually tested of our population. Have a look at this, bro.
Accurate. He keeps touting how much testing the United States is doing, but we have a graphic, it's P18, where it shows other countries compared to the United States. And if you look at it per capita, what percentage of the population of the country is being tested? Look at Iceland. 13.5% of that country has been tested. Iceland is obviously easier to get your arms around than the United States. But look at Spain. 2.2% has been tested. Italy, which we talk so much about, 3% of the population tested. Then you look at the United States, 1.7% of the population has been tested. How much of the population of the United States would have to be?
Okay. Now, listen to what the expert says about testing and the numbers being tested and how it correlates with what any ruler should be thinking of based on those numbers, based on that base, that foundation. If you use testing as your foundation to make your decisions, listen to what this expert says.
Roadmap from Harvard, Dr. Benninger is, they say initially you'd have to get to 5 million tests by June. That's per day. And then ultimately to 20 million tests per day by June. Now, keep in mind, we're saying tests, not people. I hope people understand that, because people may need to be tested, more than once, several times even. So 20 million tests a month would be 600 million tests. So 20 million tests a day would mean 600 million tests in a month.
Okay. Now, the funny thing is, do you know why I'm showing the UK? The only reason I'm able to show you that UK has only tested 1% of our population, 1%. of our population. The only reason I'm able to do that is because the US are putting us on a chart that they prepared for their country. I'm not seeing any of those figures over here. I am not. No matter where I look, I can't see those figures over here. So I get these figures from CNN, who are kind of running it for their country. And I'll tell you something else. Our government's not putting out these numbers. Neither is the US government putting these numbers out. Those numbers I'm showing you, they're not Trump's numbers. They're not. They're not Trump's numbers. The US government would not want to put out those. Trump is on the podium saying, yeah, testing is going great. We're testing more than any other country on the planet. We are ahead of everybody on the planet. If the press over there left it to Trump to talk to the people, guys, right now you think there's no sickness left in that country. You'll think everybody's fine. Everybody open up your safe to roll. You'll be drinking flipping Dettol to kill it. You'll be putting UV lights inside of your bottom so it goes into your body to cure you. You'll be drinking all kinds of insecticides and infecticides or whatever they're bloody called.
We have more than 1 million cases, and more than 50,000 Americans died so far in April. Yet the president somehow insisting yesterday he called it right.
It will go down to zero ultimately, and you have to understand when it comes to cases, we do much more testing than anybody else. So we could go to some of these other countries, as an example, China. If you test, you're going to show many more cases. So we're doing more testing than any other country in the world by far. And it will be at the appropriate time, it will be down to zero, like we said.
Guys, so let me show you the true state of affairs in the UK, because why are we talking Brexit when we're still here? Take a look, please.
Are starting to decline. The number of people who have lost their lives in care homes is still on the increase, and the cases reported in the last fortnight confirm a very steep rise in fatalities. There are fears that the number of deaths outside hospital might bring the death toll to double the official one. At the same time, the government announced a ramping up of testing. In England, people over 65 with symptoms will now be able to be tested. Here are today's other main developments. Positive for COVID-19 is up by 586. New figures from care homes show 4,343 people have died from COVID-19 since Easter in England and Wales. The number of deaths in care homes will now be published daily.
Also, the Office for National Statistics also published its deaths in all settings. They show for the week up to April the 17th, specifically in care homes, there were 7,316 deaths, 5,000 above the average expected in this week. And analysis by several experts now says that the figures would suggest that deaths in all settings are now more than 45,000. What is also clear...
Now, take a look at what the CQC, okay, the CQC are saying, okay, in terms of the current deaths. Take a look.
From the Care Quality Commission, published for the first time, show just how many people are dying in care homes. In the 2 weeks to April the 24th, there were 4,343 deaths in England that was said to be COVID-related. In the first week, there were 2,000 deaths, but in the second week, this rose by a fifth to 2,375, suggesting the trend in care homes is still upwards, unlike the trend in the general population. For all the statistics that now pour out every Tuesday, it is staff like Samantha who witness it, and her case nightly, as she works her shifts in care homes.
Before COVID-19, it's made like one every couple of months, one every month, if that. But that was from natural causes. But at the moment, we're just getting one after the other. It's extremely emotionally, mentally, it breaks you down.
Give me a feel for the numbers we're talking about.
I think the past week it's been about 3 confirmed, but 2 suspected.
The Care and Quality Commission, they're the body that looks after sort of care homes, nursing homes, hospitals, residential care, so any aftercare from hospitals and stuff like that. So they're the general body that that will sanction a nursing home who's not doing their job. So it's their business to know. Now, when you see those deadly numbers, as we still are in the UK, how can a government start playing politics at this juncture? How can they start playing politics at this point, at this crossroads we're at? Don't you don't you wait a little bit to start thinking of Brexit? Guys, I've been saying on this platform that our ministers, our cabinet, all of them, I swear they all went to Brexit University. If you're watching my videos for the very first time, I'm going to explain it just for you. Those who have been watching my videos know exactly what I mean by that. If this is the first video you've ever watched, let me explain that. I've been saying, and you might hear someone else say at some point, because they do copy what I say. I've been saying now for weeks, yeah, that our ministers are behaving as though they went to Brexit University, as though in the UK there is such a thing as Brexit universities and all other universities. And if you happen to go to Brexit University, you can then only pursue career in Brexit matters. You can only look for jobs to do with Brexits and nothing else. So you can't be an engineer, you can't be a lawyer, you can't be a doctor, you can't be a stockbroker, you can't be an accountant, you can't be a builder, you can't be a nurse, a doctor, whatever. You can only deal with anything that has Brexit marked over it. Yeah, if you went Brexit University. But if you went to these other universities, then you can be anything in the world you want to be. Anything in the world you want to be. And it looks like our ministers, from our prime minister down to the last of them, it looks like they all graduated from Brexit University. And when they were running around like headless chickens, talking nonsense, not doing nothing, which they're now trying to sort of wrestle to control back. But when that was going on was when it first occurred to me. And that's when I first made those statements. And then in the last sort of 3 or 4 days, you've heard me not beat them down too much because they then started to move in the right direction. However, now you got Michael Gove this morning talking fraff about Brexit. So what they're saying is this: instead of us trying to see how we can work with the union, we already know that the European Union as one, you know, because Brexit was so fresh, everybody was so independent when this crisis hit. But a couple of weeks into it, they sort of woke back up and said, look, what are we doing? Why are we being like America? Why are we being like Britain? We're the EU. Come on, we're a family. Let's get together. Let's put our monies together and let's put in a big order. They invited the UK to join. They said, look, even though you're leaving and we don't really care much for you, come and join in it. Your fellow European, people are dying in your country. Come and join the party. Let's bring in your order. We'll put in a joint order. At least that order will match America. It will match China. It will match India. These big numbers of people country. India with 1 billion, China 1.6 billion, the US with 380 billion, and EU with 500 billion. At least not Little Britain with 65 billion trying to punch above its weight, trying to punch the giant. Little man trying to punch the giant up there. Right? At least it wasn't that. They invited us. Because of ideology, we blanked them 3 times. 3 times. Because we want to be able to say we did it on our own. We want to be able to say, well, we've left, so we're not going to need you. In the time they blanked them, how many flipping lives were lost, guys? How many flipping lives were lost? So we haven't learned the lesson of that. Instead of now thinking forward and having forward thinking and putting lives in front of anything else, instead of putting lives in front of anything else, what do? We're announcing this morning we're still leaving on the 30th of December. So what if the crisis, the corona is still here on the 1st of November, on the 31st of October? Why are we locking ourselves into this position now? Regardless of what lives we might be able to save, what life looks like then. This is a virus that no one's ever come across, guys. Now, I want to show you a video of the US and the nastiness the meanness of people on the right, the meanness of right-wing ideology, and how the meanness of right-wing ideology is all about agendas. It's all about agendas. I said on one of my videos, a right-wing man will sell his wife if it meets his agenda. Why do you think is the left wing, is us in the center and the left wingers that always want to have peace? You never hear someone on the left or someone in the center calling for race war. It's always people in the left. They're always angry. They're always annoyed. They're now abusing nurses. They can't stand that we're all in this together. All of a sudden, there's no us against them anymore. It's like crisis. Oh gosh, we've got to do something. They're now banding together. We can't have that. We can't have everybody thinking they're on the same team. No, let's pull them apart. Let's label red states and blue states. Let's say Democrats, and over here is like Remainers and Brexiteers, and now they're telling us the supporters and the resistors. And take a look at the US, what it's doing to them.
Elected officials in Washington are saying they're against it. They're led by Senator Mitch McConnell, who leads the Senate, who makes it blatantly political. No blue state bailout. No blue state bailout. What is he trying to say? The states that have coronavirus are Democratic states. And he's a Republican, so he doesn't want to help the Democratic states. He went so far as to say, well, he'd be in favor of the states going bankrupt. Then pass a law that allows states to declare bankruptcy. He would have to do that. Senator Scott from Florida says we're supposed to bail them out. We versus them. We're supposed to bail them out. It's we and it's them. That's not right. Who is we and who is them? Who is we and who is them? Them, the people who had coronavirus. They are the ones who had the coronavirus. We, without the virus, are supposed to bail out those people who have the virus. What an ugly sentiment. And there's still facts. I know it's hard to communicate facts in this environment. I know a lot of the filters don't communicate facts. They all communicate spin now. Everybody has their own spin. But there are still facts that are not political theater, right? New York State bails them out every year. They're not bailing us out. We bail them out every year. New York State pays $29 billion into that federal pot, $29 billion more every year that we never get back. Our state contribution into the federal pot, the United States of America pot, every year we put in $29 billion more than we take out. On the other hand, they take out every year $37 billion more than they pay to the federal government. Senator Mitch McConnell, you are bailing out New York when every year you take out more from the kitty, the federal pot, $37 billion more than you put in? Who is bailing out whom? Senator Scott, Florida? You're going to bail us out? You take out $30 billion more every year than you pay in. How dare they? How dare they when those are the facts? You look at the bills that they want to pass and who they want to help. They want to fund the hotels, the restaurants, the airlines, the big corporations. That's who they want to fund. Well, who do state and local governments fund? State and local governments fund police, firefighters, nurses, school teachers, food banks. That's who I want to fund. And that's what it means to fund a state and local government. And that's the choice that they're making. Everybody applauds the healthcare workers. Jets fly over in tribute to the healthcare workers. That's all nice. Saying thank you is nice. How about actually rewarding them and making their life easier? How about giving them hazard pay? How about helping with their child care? How about helping families who can't feed their kids right now? How about helping the police and helping the firefighters and all the people who are out there right now killing themselves to make life easier for us? But if there was ever a time that one could reasonably believe you could put aside partisan politics, if there was ever going to be a moment where we could say, you know what, let's stop, just for one moment, the partisanship, the ugliness, the anger, the deception. Let's just stop for one moment. If there was going to be a one moment to hit the pause button, the moment would be now. You have human suffering. You have people dying. You can't stop the politics, even in this moment? Even in this moment, when people are dying all across the country, you still want to play your politics?
You know, that's the levels that these right-wing governments go to. Right-wing people. They lie. They cheat. Only the right has robbed elections in America. George Bush Jr. in 2000 robbed Al Gore. Those of you who watch politics, it was hinged on Florida. George Bush's little brother, Jeb Bush, was the governor of Florida. And we waited. And we waited. I remember there was that time. I remember 2 weeks would pass and I'm like, what's the result? Oh yeah, have they done it yet? And I'll go and I'll check and no, nothing yet. It dragged on and on. They made you want to forget about it. And then when people forgot about it, Florida said, yes, we've now declared the count. We've now counted it. We're now happy. George Bush has won it. Why Al Gore let them get away with it, I will never know. Then they robbed Hillary Clinton. Both times, the Blues, Democrats, Al Gore and Hillary Clinton, had a bigger number of votes. But because America runs to electoral college, you can have 5 million votes more than the other guy. If he's won certain states, which has bigger electoral college seats allocated to it, he wins. So in 2000, George Bush did not win the election. More people voted for Al Gore. In 2016, more people voted for Hillary Clinton, no matter what all the dirt and all the lies they threw upon her. These guys lie and they cheat, and our government's exactly the same as them people. Why are we hiding the numbers of people who died? What is the motive behind not telling? You don't want them to see that the Britain that you said, yeah, we're going to do this to Britain and we're going to raise it up and let's unleash our potential. All of a sudden, we got no potential to get PPEs. We got no potential to get bloody tiny little things. You know what they're telling people? Scotland, right? Scotland's told its citizens to, and Scotland's a nationalist government. It's not a right-wing government. It's more, it thinks more to Labour. Scotland's more of a left wing towards the Labour. Nicola Sturgeon, she is more to the right, to the left, to the Labour, to the Jacinda Ardern, to that side of politics, rather than to the Trump and the Boris Johnson side of politics, right? But Scotland, which is Labour, is advising their people to go out in masks. Our government have spent the last 2 weeks trying to convince us that we don't need masks. So now they've come out and they're telling us to use homemade masks. Why are they doing this? Just because they're mean. They don't want to issue everybody with masks. So they're making us feel guilty about protecting ourselves by throwing the NHS in the mix. Oh, if everybody goes out buying masks, then we won't have masks with the NHS. Well, buy enough. Buy enough masks so that I can have a mask, my It's 9-year-old who's a minor can have a mask. My 2 older children who are adults, 29 and 30, can have a mask. All my family can have a mask, including all the nurses and all the doctors in the land. Other countries are doing it. Guys, do you know Albania offered us help the other day? Albania. That's how heavy and top-ranking Britain has become since Brexit. Albania is offering us help. Right? Scotland's telling their people to wear masks. The UK are telling their people, they say wearing a mask won't help us. However, if you want to protect yourself, use household stuff. If you find a cloth or a towel you put around your face, why not put a bra around your face? Why not put Tampax around your face? I'll show you what they're suggesting. Take a look at these. This is what our right-wing government is telling us to do. That we don't need masks. Masks ain't gonna save lives. However, all these countries who are letting their people out are telling them to wear masks. You saw the numbers in the nursing homes, guys. In February, the Health England advised the care industry and nursing homes that they got nothing to worry about. They don't need any protection. This is 23rd or something of February. They don't need any protection. They don't need anything. They'll be fine. And the chances of infection in that sector is very slim. So because they gave them that advice, wrong advice, and now they're dying in droves, so now they're covering the numbers of their crime and pushing it down and then denying, but yet they haven't learned from that. And they're now coming back and telling us that we don't need masks. Guys, Scotland are wearing masks. When Brexit does happen, I'm telling you guys, Scotland is the place to move to. Their property prices are cheap. I know it's cold up there, and I know to black people, some Scottish people are not that friendly. However, they're looking for talent. Scotland's looking for talent. And when Scotland breaks away from the UK, which I pray God they do, because those who wanted Brexit were happy to lose them. So I'm not praying for bad on them. I'm actually praying for their wish to come true. They took a poll of them. 60% of them were happy to lose Scotland and Northern Ireland as long as we come out the EU. So I pray that Scotland gets its independence. I pray that Northern Ireland joins back to Ireland and they become a bigger country over there. And Scotland becomes its own country. And I tell all my black people, move the hell to Scotland. Because when that happens, you're going to have just this right-wing neo-Nazi members of Boris Johnson. I'm not saying Boris Johnson himself is, okay? But there are many of his people that are neo-Nazi minded. There are many of his people who want Nigel Farage to be in that government. So when Scotland do leave, guys, we get the hell out of Britain and move to Scotland. Whatever Scotland's going to be called at that point as a nation, I say we move there. I'm definitely going to be moving there. So guys, they want us to put knickers over our faces. They want us to put towels, bras, Tampaxes, all sorts of stuff. Anything but masks. It's not going to help. Take a look at the discussion today.
Now we are talking Brexit and whether the government is being irresponsible by refusing to extend the transition period past the 31st of December just to reflect the damage caused by coronavirus. Michael Gove yesterday reiterated his belief that we're fine as is. We can still end our ties with the bloc at the end of this year. He even said the pandemic should focus EU minds on getting trade talks sewn up as soon as possible. No deal planning has been suspended. Those who are working on it have been redeployed to deal with coronavirus, but they can't meet in person. It's all happening online. There are still stumbling blocks. The Northern Irish backstop, access to UK waters for EU fishing boats, to name but two. And of course, we talked about them so much, haven't we? Plus, of course, it could be argued that there are more pressing matters to attend to both here and on the continent, where countries like Italy, Spain and France have been hit by the virus. So, Lucy, it's a chance, I suppose, to say, look, we can't get our act together by the 31st of December. Let's ask them for a one-year extension.
we can get our act together. That's not the point at issue. The Prime Minister has made it very clear there is going to be no extension to the transition period. And if we don't come to a deal with the EU, then we will leave on WTO terms. And the EU is fully aware of that. And therefore, you could argue that the ball is in their court. The irony is that quite a lot of distress was put out there by people who weren't in favour of Brexit by saying about the disruption to trade and the disruption to normal civil existence. Well, I think we can say that we are currently going through that period of sort of civil disturbance and great stress and strain, and we are making our way through this current period of turbulence. So to some extent, Brexit probably could be a walk in the park. Let's not use any other excuse to deny what the public voted for, which was to leave the EU.
Owen, staying it another year, we might be lashed into this bailout for Italy, which is being talked about. We don't want that, do we?
Well, look, whatever happens, Brexit's going to happen. So if anyone thinks there are people like myself using this as an opportunity to stop Brexit in terms of the comments I'm making, that's absolutely not the case. We're going to leave the European Union. What I would say is, does it matter if for say 3-6 months we delay the transition period coming to an end? Because clearly all the minds have to be focused on this pandemic. The idea we should be using huge amounts of time preparing for a no-deal calamity, and I do think the idea we leave the EU and inflict a huge economic shock on ourselves when the economy is already in massive turmoil would be really self-destructive. I just think we should be pragmatic about it. I think we should assess where we are at later on in the year. We should assess our economic situation, which is going to be really, really dire, before doing something which is just going to pile on even more economic turmoil and lead to even more people losing their jobs, their wages being hit. So I just think, let's be pragmatic. Let's just see where we're at. I don't think we should go head on off a cliff when we're already in this mess.
Right. That's quite a good...
Guys, can you imagine that we're discussing this conversation when this stuff is still going on? Let me give you a clue of how far away we are from even having that conversation right now. There's a footballer, a Juventus footballer, who has tested 4 times in 6 weeks. America, when they're talking about how many million you need to be tested, they weren't just talking about one test, one person test. So for example, they're not talking about having enough tests, so just to test me, you, and everybody else one time. This is a test that we have to keep going, because if this footballer guy who lives in a big mansion, him and his girlfriend caught it on the 21st of March for the first time. They beat it. Since the 21st of March and today the 28th of April, 29th of April, right? He's caught it 4 times. Take a look.
Juventus striker Paulo Dybala has tested positive for the 4th time in 6 weeks. Other players have also been sick, and football fans are wondering when the season will
start. For Juventus, the team that's won the Italian Football Championship the last 8 seasons running, their best goal scorer behind Cristiano Ronaldo, an Argentina international. When he first tested positive for the coronavirus, he mentioned it to his followers on Instagram on March the 21st. He and his girlfriend, who he lives with, both tested positive. And a source close to the striker has told CNN that he's now tested positive 4 times in 6 weeks, which has all sorts of implications, because we know that the World Health Organization told us earlier this week that there's still, because it's such a new, COVID-19 is still such a new disease, we don't fully know everything about it.
Now, that guy has caught it 4 times, right? And then you got us talking about Brexit when we've only tested 1%. You see, my problem with these right-wing ideology bastards who are running our countries is that none of the facts matter to them. It didn't matter to them when they were lying to you guys about Brexit. It didn't matter to them that that Turkey was not about to join the EU. This is why it's so important, my people, to be informed. When I saw that poster on the bus saying Turkey, 90 million Turks joining the EU, I laughed at it. And I believe the press would have laughed it out because I saw it on the first date. However, they didn't laugh it out of town because now we're dealing with the after effects of the lies. When I saw that bus, I knew it was a lie. Turkey had just introduced the death penalty 2 years before. One of the biggest, if not the most important rule of being in the EU is that you can't have the death penalty. The EU won't even repatriate you to America as an American citizen if your sentence, what they want you for, has death penalty on it. They will let you stay in the EU forever. Before we voted, they reinstated it. Erdogan, the Prime Minister, the President of Turkey. So while they had the death penalty, when he just reintroduced it, there's no way he's just going to quash it again because they had to have thought about it for quite a long time before bringing it back. So the next time, what I want this society to be like, yeah, is the next time Trump gets on the podium. You just heard him say, we're testing more people than anybody. And yeah, I showed you their figures. They're bottom of the pile. They're just over 1% have been tested. The next time they do that, let every press stand together and call him out as a liar. The next time a Nigel Farage shows a bus, now they're discussing the NHS. Now the lady's talking. She's another right-wing nut that wants this to just crack on. We don't care. Their WTO rules will do with that. Yes, they will do with it because they're wealthy. They're protected. They got cushion. Right? They're like a whale. You know, like a whale, when you see a whale swimming in frozen North Atlantic oceans and seas. And it's ice and they're swimming in ice. Me and you can't swim in that ice. You know why? We ain't got the blubber. They're layers of fat. If this is their skin, they've got a layer of fat this thick. That's why you see them swimming in that. You see these idiots that are talking, yeah, WTO. They got that layer of fat this thick. No matter how icy those waters get, they will swim. Whereas you and I can't get in the water yet. It's too cold. We stand back and we'll be left behind. That's why they're confident, because they got that amount of blubber to protect them. That's why they're happy to head out, to come out of this. Okay? Take a look now at what Cuomo is saying about people should not be fooled again. I'm begging you people, open your eyes. Listen to Andrew Cuomo, who is the governor of New York State that featured in the earlier video. Have a look.
Play the American people and assume they're stupid. They're not. And they can add. And they know facts. And I don't care what the news media tries to do to distort these facts. They are numbers. And they are facts.
You know, it's just them and us. Us and them. Division, division, division. These right-wing governors are not here for anybody, people. Ideology is what they deal with. And if ideology means another 40,000 people on top of the 45,000 you saw in my clip, if another 40,000 people have to die just so we can get through Brexit and just pull ourselves out and then suffer the consequences in 2021. Now, what madman can see where we are at now? I showed you guys a chart the other day, guys, okay? And I'll show you guys this chart again, okay? This is where we are right now, people. This is where we are. I'm going to show you. Okay? This was us in 2008. And I had businesses in 2008, 2009, 2010, all the way to 2014. It was this here that crashed me. It was this here that finished off mine and my wife's businesses, our family's huge income that we had at the time. It was this here that killed us off. Now look at where we are this time round. And these guys are talking about WTO rules. Can you see how nutty these people are? This is why this show's titled When Brexit Made the Pandemic. Okay? These people are talking about this was bad enough. People committing suicide here. People lost homes in droves. There's still towns empty in Spain where we were living. Whole towns. Whole towns. Right? Whole estates with thousands of buildings on it, empty. When we were here. Look at the difference with here to here. And these mad hatters are talking about Brexit now, at this time, committing themselves to something that they're going to want to keep to. Saying, no, they're going to common sense to just wait. Keep Brexit out of the papers. Keep doing all your meetings in secret. Keep doing all the paperwork, all the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. Keep doing all that in silence. Make your main focus be save lives. And then see where we are in August. See where we are in September. See where we are in October. Does that not make sense, people? Look, guys, listen to the conversation. And I mean, listen to what a real leader does. Now, New Zealand have just reopened. And they haven't reopened they reopened slowly. Jacinda Ardern, she's my hero. You know, I would love to. I know most of you guys would love to see. I don't know. I know Marvin Gaye is dead. I know most people would love to see Jay-Z or P Diddy. Sod them. They don't do jack for me. They got no sense. All they got is they had enough sense to write music. They're no one. Put them in charge of a country and they won't know what to do. Right? You know who my hero is? You know who I would like to meet? Is Jacinda Ardern. Angela Merkel. Justin Trudeau. These are the people I like to have lunch with. These are nice, decent people that their countries are so lucky that they managed to pick the right people at a time like this. We landed on our heads instead of our feet because we just voted in this lot, and look what's happening to us here. Here's Jacinda's advice to her people. Now she's opened up. I just love her. Take a look.
So with more people going back to work today, we need to be even more vigilant at level 3 to prevent any inadvertent spreading of the virus. We must continue to stay home where possible, including for work and education. Please stay regional and limit non-essential travel. And even though you can expand your bubble, keep it as small as possible and exclusive.
That is New Zealand's Prime Minister urging caution as the country eases out of its lockdown. She's announcing that they have effectively eliminated coronavirus there. CNN's Ivan Watson joins us with more on New Zealand's success. So what was the key to their success, Ivan?
I think it was moving very quickly when there had not even been any...
It really makes me sad, and I think that we are pretty unlucky. We're pretty unlucky in this country that we didn't vote in a Jacinda Ardern. I'm hoping that come election time, that Labour would have. I know they've just voted in what's his name in power to rule the party. He seems a very decent guy. They already throwing flack at him that he's a millionaire and all this. It was I even see our own people, my own black people are following that press. They forget they're sharing stuff that the right wing are putting out to crush the only person that looks like he might be able to beat Boris. And you're helping them spread the news. As far as I'm concerned, after this chapter, no country should entertain a right-wing ruler again. Let the right-wing rulers change their mindset, change their policy, change the way they look at things for them to be electable again. That's what I say to you, my people. As of now, I'm going to sign out. It's been great talking to you guys today. Tomorrow, I'm going to get back to the black issue again. I have some information to discuss on that. Some breaking news about another way that this thing's killing us. More to say, guys. Have a beautiful day. Have a fantastic day. And I'll see you guys on tomorrow's show. Thank you very much for listening. Make sure you subscribe. And as you know, the last thing I'll always say to you is break the fake news. Don't pass it on. Be hard to fool, like Governor Cuomo said. The people are not stupid anymore. Prove me right and prove them wrong. When they send you fake news or they tell you that everything's fine, we're going out of the UK, we're going out of Europe on a WTO, tell them you understand what WTO means and you do not want that. Can you imagine us going out on WTO terms? Yeah, in that example I gave you, on WTO terms when we're here. We was going to head out on WTO terms here. Okay? Where we started from. Say here then. Where we started from. Because this has been, I think we was round about here or here. So we was going to head out of WTO terms here. And I think he would have done this to us. Okay? Now we're trying to head out here. And this is as of now. We don't know if it's going to keep going down. And they still want to head out. They can't wait to see where we are to head out. Don't let them do that to us. Guys, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.